This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto, Knuckles OX, Jelpy, and Baba Snake. We now jump back roughly 1 month to the days spent in training for the tuning exam finals, with Team Hyuga being hard at work. As the leader, Hinata as always feels compelled to set a good example for her teammates, with this being reflected in her gains, as not only has she improved her technique and strength, but she has also learned new things, like the 8 trigrams air palm, thanks to having 2 separate gentle fist masters to help bolster her weakness at ranged combat. But she has also attained an even higher level of proficiency with Sinbone specifically, from training with Haku, having even devised a technique called Agony Avalanche, in which she deals seemingly superficial hits while really strategically placing Sinbone inside the target's body, so that with a single blow that hits those insignificant points all at once, she can completely debilitate them. Additionally, thanks to her keen mind and higher perception than normal, she can somewhat travel with Haku at high speeds when he uses Ice Mirror Jutsu, albeit at the cost of not being entirely capable of entering the Ice Mirrors with him due to not possessing the Keki Genkai itself. As for her teammates, Temari has focused her efforts on supplementing the others, creating a series of collaborative jutsus, such as the Air Palm Fan Wall with Hinata, in which she can use the powerful gust created by her fan to power pro leader's air palm by swinging a wide arc just as she launches the hit. She and Haku are also a surprisingly compatible pair, as with both being wind nature users, they can very easily create double strength jutsus. Girls combine Haku's water nature with Temari's wind to create easy counters for fire users. However, their most effective collaboration is not actually performed by them, but rather their summons, as Kamatari, the sickle-wielding weasel, is able to equip Haku's snow rabbits with spare sickles, and in doing so, creates a small fluffy army of blade-wielding bunnies in an instant. Then there is Haku. Like Temari, he has worked to be a useful asset to the team, though to an entirely separate degree, as he has entirely neglected increasing his own skill in favor of helping the others. However, this is not to say he has not grown, as simply by working with 2 people whose skill far exceeded what would be normal for a Genin, he has learned a lot, especially in the field of non-lethal combat, and what it means to truly be valued as a teammate, beyond one's utility, thanks to receiving further exposure to such things by one not only beginning to practice them like Master Zabuza. Thanks to all this growth, Temari and Haku feel confident in their chances of victory, at least where their respective ambitions and goals are concerned, though Hinata is not entirely sure, particularly since she will have to face Sasuke and possibly Naruto if she's able to defeat the former. In spite of all her hard work, the Hyuga heiress worries that she is beginning to fall behind her friends, and that soon there will come a day when she is no longer able to keep up and protect them, an outcome she is unwilling to accept, both as their lieutenant and their friend. Though Hinata isn't sure if that is the right word anymore, as her feeling for both boys go beyond the bonds of friendship and camaraderie she once felt so simplistically, with her getting a little distracted each time when she thinks about them, as her thoughts of them mostly occur during training sessions when considering if a new move can be used to beat them. It doesn't take Haku and Temari long to notice that something is on Hinata's mind, with the blonde-haired elder Kunoichi quickly deducing what it is from the goonish blush Hinata keeps getting. In her no-nonsense way, Temari questions if Hinata is losing her dedication to their team already, since she can't afford to just uproot everything for some boy. However, in contrast, Haku states that it's no crime to be dedicated to the object of one's heart, as that devotion can become a source of incredible strength if channeled properly. This just leaves Hinata more confused, as she's not even sure if these feelings really are romantic, though this is hardly her biggest concern, as at that moment, a figure knocks on the gate of the Hyuga compound and politely waits to be granted admission, something he most certainly did not do last time he was here, as it is the Cloud Shinobi who tried to abduct her as a much younger child. Veins bulging around her eyes as her Byakugan instinctively scans for any allies or tricks, Hinata coldly asks what he's doing here, with it taking all her etiquette training to keep her tone polite, hanging his head a little in an evident gesture of penitence and fear. The Cloud Shinobi a bit nervously replies that he quite understands why she would be less than thrilled to see him again, though if he may have just a moment of Lady Hinata's time, he would like to present her personally with a formal apology and a gift, muffling a cough as he does so. Still suspicious, Hinata stays where she is, almost as if the gate between them is a safe zone, like in some childhood game of tag. However, the diplomat, she does agree to at least hear the man out, something he expresses his deepest gratitude for. First and foremost, he formally introduces himself, stating that his name is Komodo, and that is the one who personally wronged her. He wished to apologize, and request that even if she cannot find in her heart to forgive him, she at least not hold his mistake against the entire Hidden Cloud Village. He then extends a hand in which he holds a sealed scroll, stating that this is Lord Fourth Raikage A's gift for her, and a peace offering from the Cloud to the Hyuga officially. But even still, Hinata does not approach, instead simply nodding at Haku, who has one of his rabbits collect the scroll and bring it back to her, while the ex-assassin stands at her side, ready to render aid or enact vengeance if this is some sort of trap. As her Byakugan can detect no obvious issues, Hinata slowly unfurls the scroll, finding a handwritten missive echoing Komodo's sentiments, as well as some notes that detail fundamentals of what appear to be high-level hidden cloud techniques. From his position outside the gate, the Cloud Jonin grins that it's quite a gift, isn't it? But one Miss Hinata will no doubt put to great use, as from personal personal experience, her gentle fist is already particularly stunning, so combined with that, it may well become the ultimate taijutsu weapon. Though if she does intend to accept and practice it, he would advise not letting her family catch wind of it until she's got everything down, since he imagines this is fairly taboo for her. But that is just the kind of power she needs to assure that her title as a prodigy even amongst the Hyuga is secured. A feeling whether she likes it or not, Hinata cannot help but agree with. Komodo then bids the group farewell, though not before wishing them luck in the next round of the exams, stating that he will be watching it with keen interest, since from here on, this will truly be an inter-village clash between the Sand and Leaf Shinobi, one that he's sure will be a spectacle to behold. In fact, he's not sure if his team will be able to resist getting in on the fun, despite their eliminations. Though as they are guests in this village who have been told to be on their best behavior, perhaps they will exhibit some restraint. It is an odd statement to leave on from an objectively odd man. Though not knowing Komodo very well, Hinata and Haku both assumed that it was just more blathering in an attempt to seem friendly. However, to Temari, it has a very different meaning, as having understood what to her ear was a rather clumsy code, she knows that he was trying to warn her that somehow the Cloud has gotten wind of her father's Leaf Crush plan, though for now at least, it seems they haven't decided what they will do with this information. Regardless, this intel leak is bad news, but even still, she cannot be seen to panic. All she can do is keep playing her part and wait for a chance to rendezvous with her brothers and Baki Sensei. Speaking of whom, over at the training grounds, Kankuro is in the midst of his own training session alongside Shino and Sasuke. Like Team Hyuga, Team Uchiha have two mentors, theirs being Kakashi and Guy, the latter of whom tends to get on Kankuro's nerves with all his yelling about youth. Nonetheless, the pair of Leaf Jonin do have their uses, helping them to attain synchronicity and form their own collaborative jutsus for one, with them quickly coming to realize Sasuke likely has formed the most balanced team out of the remaining exam participants. As a result, their training is by far the easiest to execute, as for the most part, Kakashi and Guy simply give them as much combat experience as a trio they can, even getting the odd bit of help from Neji and Tenten sometimes to increase the intensity, with this time serving to also allow Sasuke to experiment more with some of his new limits and abilities, courtesy of the Shinigami, like his ability to erase his presence near perfectly, and human speed and pain tolerance, even if they do come at the cost of the unnerving Spectre occasionally whispering in his ear during moments of intense action. However, this is not the only thing the pair of mentors can provide, as with Sasuke's genius being well established, they decide to try and share some techniques with the boy that will put him in good standing for the battles ahead. While in canon, Kakashi would likely use this as a chance to teach Sasuke the Chidori due to their similarities and his upcoming opponents. With Guy here, this is not the case, as he thinks a more youthful and safe answer is the 8 gates. After a simultaneously lazy and heated debate, it ends with both Jonin sighing that it seems they're at an impasse of two extremes. Kakashi suggests that for the sake of Sasuke's best interest, they eschew teaching him conflicting paths, as this will just split his focus and result in half-baked skills. Instead, they'll just focus on helping him grow stronger in his current skills, and then expand on those to try and fill in his weaknesses. To this end, after some recruiting, they bring in Kakashi's old friends Hayate and Yugao, since their ranks as current Anbu Black Ops squad members and Itoku Betsu Jonin invited to the organization respectively, not only boast of a power that the young Uchiha and his teammates will strive to emulate, but also hold a particular sway with Sasuke, since he remembers Itachi's time in the Anbu well. As Kakashi had hoped, this pair proved most useful especially in further honing Sasuke's areas of interest that he already holds, his Kenjutsu being at the forefront of them, despite the fact that he's not too intent on using it against at least 2 of his upcoming opponents. Though this is not to say it's their sole benefit, as having developed an immediate rapport with this version of Sasuke, Hayate suggests that he try his hand at learning Earth Release as his second chakra nature, since for one, it would be good for holding down rabid beasts like Naruto and Gaara, as well as providing a good back pocket jutsu against foes like Hinata, as he will almost always be fighting in an area where Earth is accessible. Playfully, Yugao points out that in that case, wind will be even better, since there will certainly always be air wherever Sasuke fights as well, to which Hayate, despite his introverted nature, teasingly questions his fiancée what if Sasuke were to fight on the moon, a claim Yugao calls ridiculous, though in a fun way that reminds Sasuke briefly of his mother and father, causing the Shinigami to cackle in his ear. Nonetheless, Hayate does begin teaching Sasuke the headhunter jutsu, with the boy's genius level intellect allowing him to get the hang of it, as he is quickly able to trap his teammates and teachers in newly made holes. Though for once, he is not entirely certain that this achievement is through his own merit, as each time he makes one, the Shinigami menacingly muses that what is a hole containing a body but a grave, with Sasuke eventually snapping at it to just shut up, since it's annoying. Though as no one else can actually see or hear the apparition, it seems like he is just insulting Guy, who had been speaking to Yugao while helping her dig herself out of a hole, about the youthfulness of his own squad, resulting in an awkward moment for the quiet Uchiha. As for what the other members of Team Uchiha learned during this time, Sasuke and Kankuro are able to create a highly effective combination move in which Sasuke channels the Dragon Flame Jutsu through Kankuro's chakra threads, rather than laying down actual ninja wire as a medium, an extremely useful trick, as it not only prevents telegraphing the setup in preparation for the jutsu, and therefore the plan as a whole, but also gives Kankuro a destructively unique usage for a non-damaging technique, as with Sasuke's help, he can now basically create flaming whips to strike and bind his enemies, with the young Sand Shinobi reasoning that perhaps when he gets home, he'll begin studying fire style, as it will be helpful to be able to do this move without Sasuke. Shino meanwhile perhaps benefits the least, as in his quiet way, he is largely overlooked by his new mentors by mistake, though he does still get a pair of collaborative techniques to use alongside his team captain. First, while not jutsu per se, the pair of brainiacs do concoct ways in which their skills complement each other well, but Sasuke quickly learned to carry Shino's insects on his person and deposit them on an opponent, even if he misses an attack, allowing them to sync up pretty quickly and support each other from long range and close up relatively well. While in turn, Sasuke can use his fire and newly learned earth styles to either create ash from grass around them, or simply turn off the dirt to allow Shino's bugs to pass more easily and quickly through, or else to just hide and await a chance to strike and swarm opponents in. Even Kankuro creates a tandem move with the reserved Aburame boy, which they ultimately dubbed the Marionette Bug Belt Jutsu, in which they covertly load one of Kankuro's puppets with a swarm of Shino's bugs, hiding and protecting them, only for the puppet to then launch them onto the target's face and body when they're least expecting it, disorienting and draining them as their chakra is feasted upon. It is a disgusting and underhanded move, one fitting of a member of the infamous Sand siblings, and a boy once considered for a place in the Ambu himself. And so it is that with this collection of new skills, camaraderie, and abilities acquired, we return to the present as Team Uchiha and Team Hyuga square off for the right to advance to the finals. Locking eyes, the two captors and co-squad mates promise to make their match even more of a spectacle than Naruto's. A tall order, as all who witness it would label that clash between Team Uzumaki and Team Gaara as exhilarating but chilling. Nonetheless, Team Uchiha, by virtue of their technically more aggressive leader, are the first to go on the attack, staying close together as they all barrel towards Hinata. Their intention simply cut the head off the snake. However, this just makes them a consolidated target, with Haku's expertise as an assassin coming into effect here, as he instructs Temari to mirror him and ironically fan out, with the pair taking up positions a bit away from Hinata in a classic triangle formation. This quickly turns the center of the battlefield which Sasuke and his allies are occupying into a kill box, as they are attacked from three sides by Sinbone, whipping winds, and air palms. Thinking fast, Shino creates a 360-degree shield of bugs. This is not enough to fend off all three attacks, instead simply buying them enough time to cut a hasty retreat. So as Hinata watches them carefully with her Byakugan, she sees something normal eyes could not, that it is two sets of feet, not three, who are backing away, meaning one of the boys have vanished, and the true purpose of the shield was to hide this, so they could launch a sneak attack at. Suddenly, the ground right in front of Hinata begins to give way as Sasuke bursts out of it, his fist raised in an uppercut, having used his new Earth Nature proficiency to pick up the hidden Mojutsu as well. Unfortunately, at such close range, Hinata cannot dodge and is sent reeling, though only seemingly, as being quick on her feet, both figuratively and literally. She does not fight the momentum, instead allowing herself to fall back flexibly in the least damaging way possible, while trusting her teammates to cover for her in the brief recovery window this will necessitate. Unfortunately for the young heiress, Haku and Temari had their own issues to deal with, as having clearly taken Sasuke's emergence as a signal, Kankuro and Shino have launched into an attack, with each choosing a specific target. For Shino, this is Haku, as while he's an extremely fast and very skilled shinobi, especially with Sinbone, he will have a hard time striking anything as small and fast moving as an insect, as each time one of the needles are thrown and skewers a parasite, the swarm as a whole simply parts to avoid the blow and avoid the same fate. And Sasuke has already given him a detailed analysis of as much as he knows about Haku. Meanwhile, Temari is dealing with an onslaught from her brother, who not only has the benefit of already knowing all her moves, as they grew up and trained together, but also has a natural resistance to her winds, as his puppets cannot be hurt by weaponized currents, and the weight of them keeps them grounded, so they are not blown away. Not to mention, thanks to his focus and caliber of training partners and foreign masters over the last month, he's finally more than a definitive match for his big sister, causing his pride to swell a bit, enough to almost give him the gusto required to think himself capable of actually taking on Gaara, though a large part of him is hoping the Leaf Crush will begin before that has to happen. Unfortunately, with this battle as a perfect guide to communicate in secret, Temari informs him that the plan may not even go off, so for now, he should also be fighting to win and keep its cover. However, this is not to say that the Team Hyuga duo are helpless, as recognizing that they are at a disadvantage individually since their opponents are waging on a power difference and separation from their teammates to lock them out of the collaboration they worked on for most of the month. Still, having known no plan would survive contact with the enemy, they improvise and do the same as Sasuke's team, working together from afar. In order for this plan to work, the first step requires Haku to summon his crystal ice mirrors. Though to the surprise of his opponents who had heard about this move from Sasuke, he does not attempt to enter them. Instead, he simply focuses on manifesting as many as he can, with their true purpose becoming clear a moment later, as the temperature inside the ring begins to drop rapidly from all the ice in the air. This is just what Temari had been waiting for, as whipping her fan in a series of wide arcs, she promptly creates a slicing icy gale, which seems to cut through Kankuro and Shino's clothes, chilling them to their cores as this slows and crowds them together. Unfortunately for Team Uchiha, they are not the only victims, as Shino's bugs then begin falling out of the sky, having instinctively gone inert from the cold, while Kankuro's crow puppet experiences similar movement difficulties, as his joints begin to freeze up, locking down on the boy's weapons and modifications. To make matters worse, it is at this moment that Haku and Temari call forth their summons, with Kamatari happily chowing down on this buffet of frozen bugs, while Haku's rabbits give in to their natural instinct to chew on wood, with this creating several cracks in the cloaked puppet's varnished facade. Recognizing that the turns have tabled, Shino and Kankuro do their best to hold off their opponents with chakra threats and blasts of insects alone, but Temari and Haku's advantages are too much to overcome, forcing them to resort to their last best hope, one that neither relishes using, as it wounds their pride, with the Sand Boys the louder of the pair yelling out for his captain to help them. Over with Sasuke, he had been ready to level his blade against Hinata's throat while she's finally down to make her forfeit after a rowdy bout of breaking into and breaking down her guard, through constantly evading or simply just eating all she had to dish out. By now, after all he's endured, only able to make this threat with a single arm, as the other was long ago paralyzed by a gentle fist strike. Like his true teammate is also likely aiming to do despite her feistiness, Sasuke much prefers to capture her rather than knock her out, since she is the one he wants to acquire for his team. And considering who he'll have to face in the finals, he needs her in as good a fighting condition as possible, adding another strategic layer to these rival battles entirely. However, upon hearing Kankuro's call, he briefly breaks off his own plans to launch a lazy but nonetheless powerful fireball jutsu back at the others, trusting that his teammates will be able to handle themselves from there. This has just the effect Kankuro and Shino have been banking on, as while an ordinary fire jutsu is not capable of harming Haku's ice mirrors, Sasuke Uchiha is far from ordinary, with a massive surge of heat not only lifting the temperature of the battlefield back to normal, as the ice tornado trapping them is dispersed by many of Shino's dead bugs and Kankuro's splinter puppet catching light and heating it up further, seeing it rise and rise above even that to a point where the ice begins to drip and take on a brittle appearance that Temari can do little to help with, as all she can do is fan the flame. Seeing this, Kankuro has his nearly total puppet fire off its limbs and head, each of which contain a hidden blade that helps them smash their way through the crystal ice mirrors, perverting them to diamond dust and leaving Haku without his strongest move. Not only that, but due to the chakra depletive nature of maintaining the jutsus in such unfavorable conditions, along with summoning his rabbits en masse, he is in a rather weakened state, a fact the analytical Shino is all too happy to capitalize on, having his reawakened bugs swarm the Bishonen and consume the last of his chakra reserves, making him the first to be eliminated in this match. Now it seems that Temari will have to handle a 2v1 on her own, with Sasuke telling Hinata that it would be best if she just instructed her team to surrender, since this match is already over, a point he elaborates on by leaning into place the tip of his chakra saber even closer to her throat. However, being the determined leader she is, Hinata chooses a different route, rolling backwards flexibly again so that her throat drops out of stabbing range faster than Sasuke can strike. But with the carried momentum, her foot shoots up to kick him in the stomach, sending him skyward a bit. Then to make matters worse, as Hinata rolls through the flourish of her strong flipping kick into a crouch, prepared to pounce after Sasuke, a thin aura of chakra begins to coat her body, and then it begins to crackle as her hair raises on end in a wildly majestic way, the results of her studies into the gift from the Raikage, a change in chakra nature to the lightning element, and what was called in the scroll lightning chakra mode. Even if it's only very rudimentary. Earnestly, the Leaf's lavender-eyed angel then apologizes to Sasuke for having to go so far, but since he's the strongest opponent she's ever faced, she has to pull out all the stops to make sure he doesn't get back up after this combo. She then jumps and bursts, flying upwards, almost envisioning the chakra cloaking her body into wings to carry her faster, as if such a thing were possible, before finally driving a roundhouse kick into Sasuke's side that sends him even higher. While grabbing hold of his shoulder, she uses the momentum to spin up and knock the blade out of his good hand just in case. Then, when she is sure they are high enough up, she delivers a series of kicks to his stomach and face, driving him back down to earth, all while naming this move the Lioness's Barrage. Thanks to her enhanced speed from the lightning chakra mode, Hinata is finally too fast for Sasuke to truly counter, leaving him helpless as he is then slammed back first into the ground, surely taking him out of the fight, since he's not Naruto thinly, while Hinata eyes up her next two targets. Deeming his insects to be a greater threat to her, Hinata chooses to go after Shino first, though knowing close-range jutsus will only give him a chance to swarm her and drain her chakra. She instead begins to use the air palm again, though this time, it is different, as being wreathed in lightning chakra, it instead takes on the appearance of a lion's head, an unexpected development, but one Hinata can most definitely work with, crying out flying lion's bite as she fires the projectile at the Aburame. Due to having the inherent, or at the very least relative speed to its wielder, the newly devised jutsu is far faster than Shino, or even his most zippy of bugs, with it therefore slamming bodily into him center mass, and sending him tumbling across the floor before lying very still. Refusing for his unconscious ally to have fallen in vain, Kankuro used the moment where the attention is off him to switch puppets, trading Crow for Black Ant, with the new puppet slipping behind Hinata, and opening its chest cavity wide to snap shut around Hinata, or at least what Kankuro thinks is Hinata, as a moment later, she appears above the puppet, having seen the attack coming with eyes in the back of her head, and dodged with such speed that she left a minor after image which the puppet had ensnared. Now she descends, using her gentle fist and pinpoint accuracy to sever the Black Ant's chakra strings, and send her own chakra surging through them to stun the puppet master, causing it to flop pretty lifelessly to the ground, while Hinata herself surges forward, and delivers a high-speed 8 trigram 64 palms, too fast for the advanced older Genin to react. Now at last, Hinata allows her lightning chakra mode to drop, feeling some slight backlash from the unmastered technique as she does, while awaiting the call of the referee to announce her team as the winners. Though when a voice speaks, it is Temari's, as in a faint voice she mutters, "Sorry, Hinata." Turning to face the sound, Hinata sees Temari, held hostage by by a battered but unmistakably conscious Sasuke, who stands behind her while his saber rests horizontally along her throat, having learned from his prior mistake. Knowing there is no way out of this, the eldest of the Sand siblings raises her hands in surrender, while her eyes dart up to her father, the Kazekage, in a special viewing box of the stadium. Some unknown significance to the action, though assuming it is simply the act of a child watching their parent for signs of disapproval, a fear Hinata knows all too well, she thinks little of it. Instead, turning her eyes to Sasuke, as now, it is down to just the two of them, a conclusion both had a hunch would come to pass. After the fights they've had, both members of Team 7 are in less than stellar condition, with Hinata feeling the toll of lightning chakra mode, while Sasuke still bears the marks of the lioness barrage, on top of all the damage he took on prior. All the same, despite his ragged appearance, he does not hesitate to go on the attack more fierce than ever the moment Temari's disqualification is confirmed by the referee, running forward while channeling fire chakra through his saber to create a powerful finisher in his burn blade. Thinking fast, Hinata draws a pair of kunai from her leg pouch and takes a defensive fighting stance, ready to catch the red-hot blade when it comes. This is not a long wait, as in his drive to succeed, Sasuke thrusts as soon as he is within range, though this is his undoing, as by holding her kunai in a reverse grip, Hinata is able to deftly catch the strike and deflect it over her shoulder, forcing Sasuke to stumble seemingly, though thankfully quick enough to realize he should back off rather than charge in. Hinata wisely calls the Uchiha's bluff, as the hand which he had just held and lost his blade with suddenly bursts into flames, huffing, as despite his inability to give in to his own pain thanks to the Shinigami, he is tiring out. Sasuke, with his Sharingan flared and spitting wildly, pants that he gets what Hinata's doing, so he's gonna try it too, as the rest of his body begins to burn up, making it evident that Sasuke means to finish this up and achieve his own objective now, despite the damage it may mean to himself, as he too obtains a boost to his speed, due to simply enhancing his muscles with a painful amount of chakra Hinata realizes, before he then goes burning and barging his way towards her, and attempts to counter the electrified gentle fist with his burning intercepting one for a final time. For a moment, time seems to slow, as the two combatants find themselves face to face, their noses almost touching, and at this proximity, Hinata feels a fluttering in her stomach, that same strange sensation she felt during training, or honestly a lot of the time when she's been around both her teammates lately. But then, she sees his Sharingan as well as her own Byakugan reflected in them, reminding her that right now, they are not squad mates, or friends, or whatever that feeling means. They are rivals, just like with Naruto, plain and simple. So, taking the same oath to win whether she has to break herself, Hinata's body begins to glow bright enough to justify the angel moniker for once, this time signifying her going full tilt with the foreign lightning chakra mode technique, as she begins to struggle back against Sasuke's improvised fire chakra mode, with the same fierceness as any rivalry between a dragon and a tiger, until the two finally force a break, and are sent sliding back to a neutral distance, where Sasuke finds and takes back his saber, and Hinata re-equips her pair of kunai to supplement her striking power even more, knowing she needs the knockout as soon as possible. To this end, as soon as Sasuke begins skidding to a stop, Hinata is upon him once more, thanks to a momentary advantage in speed granted by the lightning chakra, pressing the attack this time with her first strike being a slash with her right kunai to knock the chakra saber aside, while her second is a punch to the solar plexus with her left hand. Likewise, when Sasuke spits up a little, Hinata repeats the move, slashing once with her left blade before punching with her right hand, this time into his jaw. Were this any other opponent, this strategy would be too baffling and fast-paced to comprehend, much less counter, though to one such as Sasuke, who is blessed with the Sharingan, he can see precisely what Hinata is trying to do. She is applying the principles of gentle fist to the weapons, with the real reason that she is holding her kunai backwards being that this way she can treat the blades like a second pair of fists, slightly to the side of her real ones, with this allowing her to target key points of the chakra saber like she can to his body, resulting in her easily parrying his blows or throwing off his angles of attack. To do something like that requires immense mastery over the fundamentals, and a considerable amount of quick thinking to calculate where and how best to strike his blade, with Sasuke being admittedly impressed, though if anything, this is just more proof why he needs her on his team for the finals. Now that he understands what she is doing, it becomes easier to avoid, ducking her third set of attacks and driving a knee into her stomach, which as well as driving her back breaks up her rhythm, which is what he had been going for, as it allows him to go on the attack once more. Using a trick he learned from Hayate and Yugao, he then begins unleashing a flurry of thrusts. Thrusting stabs upon his rival and teammate. As while Kakashi had always taught him to use the chakra saber as a slashing weapon, Yugao had pointed out that as a tanto length, it is actually designed for stabbing and thrusting, with this becoming evident as Hinata's gentle fist by proxy of kunai has a harder time locating vulnerable points to hit, when the only part of the saber being exposed to her is the tip. As a result, Sasuke is quite successful in keeping her on the back foot, even managing to get within her guard again, and deliver a thrust to her side which draws blood, with it spreading up her jacket and staining the beige cloth deepest crimson. The sight of this blood fills Sasuke with a sudden exultation and euphoria, so strong that for a brief moment, he forgets all about his own injuries and fatigue, instead thinking only of his need to see and cause more bloodshed. To this end, he drives an even more brutal jab at his squad mate, this time aiming for her throat. But before he can land the likely lethal blow, Hinata, despite being thrown off by this change in demeanor, whips her kunai up to parry, a crackling electric blue glow rippling over the blade, as she had nearly burnt herself with the lightning chakra mode to get the speed she needed. For a moment, Sasuke glares hatefully, his eyes flick between her and the obstructing kunai, all the while blood pounds in his ears, until suddenly he realized that's not blood, that's cackling. The damn Shinigami is laughing again. This realization also grants Sasuke the clarity to realize how much the Death God's lust for blood and death have been influencing him there. And so, refusing to be anyone's puppet, he breaks off the attack and sheathes his blade. Confused, Hinata asks what her rival is doing, though in a flat voice with only a hint of irritation. Sasuke replies that he's done. She wins. He then turns his back on her as the Leaf Lavender Angel begins to be cheered and begins walking away. But before he can get too far, Hinata begins to collapse from the intensity of the battle. However, Hinata is there to support him just in time, telling him not to go too far, since she's choosing him as her last teammate for the finals after all. Looking back at her at last, Sasuke gives a nod of acknowledgement. Then with a look of stoic resolution in his eyes, he promises that together, they're going to crush the other team and earn their promotions. A claim Hinata is all too happy to accept and echo, smiling determinedly before turning her eyes Sasuke to the stand, where their final rivals are staring down at them. But that's where we'll be leaving part 7 for right now. Alright, that is part 7 act 2. I still feel kinda iffy with how the team battles have gone so far, especially the fact that I spent most of the actual part about, talking about the training here, talking about the collaboration jutsus they could use, but that's just kind of a big part of how I think about Naruto. Storm 4 and the Storm game has just kind of ruined my thought process of like, oh, these characters definitely have to have an ultimate jutsu together, right? So that's the big reason as to why that happened, and then things still pretty much shook down to just individual one-on-ones. But my goal is going to be to try and make act 3 have a lot of those collaborations kind of clashing together, since I want that to be the real, hitter for the whole team battle thing. And honestly, by this point, I'm just kind of sick of the tuning exam arc in this story, even though that's kind of what we need to be considering all the other Naruto stories that have going on right now. All that said, I do also want to thank Pickled Dill, who ended up doing a script exchange with me and basically just writing from my notes, because I already kind of had a writer's block from this one and I was kind of just burnt out with it, and I knew it was going to be long too. Also to our various artists like Valerius Vaya for their art creds and visuals, and of course our supporters of the day. Ty, Brian Daniel, Chicho Earthbound, Benny Montoya, Chris White, Angel Gonzalez, Fimio Galade, Crab Trooper 4552, and Pokemon Trainer Cam. That's it for me though, so as always, take care of yourselves and the world around you, make sure to go beyond plus ultra and have a nice day, and I'll see you guys next time.